Good evening, welcome to the planning board meeting of December 19th. We have 3 members, so we do have a quorum. Town engineer is here. Town secretary to the board, Nancy is here, so I guess we can get this rolling. Has anyone had the time to review the minutes?
I am.
Rich?
Yes, I am. I'll make a motion to
Second.
accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Chairman's update. We don't really have too much to report this time. I'll turn it over to Kevin, our engineer. He's been out and done a few site visits.
Yes, and for the items tonight, on Rivercrest, I looked into the stormwater maintenance plan, and
Why don't we hold that one, Kevin? Rivercrest is here before you, so we can discuss that when they come forward.
okay.
Yep, thank you.
Elsewhere in town, from last meeting, I did look at the Berthold subdivision or development wall. Still have not approved the building permit, having the owner kind of show us the revised wall plan prior to issuing a building permit, but ultimately a new wall design will be coming back before planning board to decide if it's a major change. The most notable thing is it's gone from a battered wall to a vertical wall, and also the original plans reference a geotechnical report. That was not completed, but they are making moves to get that report and incorporate it into the revised design.
Is it not completed because they never did it, or something that they're gonna do? We don't know.
There was never it was never done.
It was never
The
done.
geotechnical report, yeah.
Utilities on that site? Do you have any record of any of the inspections that were supposedly done? Because the last engineer that was on the board requested that they be redone and approved by whoever put them in. But which would be yourself now, to be there during that inspection. So they need to open up the connections for you to view.
They recently passed a water test for the water.
Okay.
In terms of the other utilities, I only have an as-built that was, I think, from 23, February 23. But no photos or no inspection report.
Did you have a chance to hit any of the other subdivisions that currently supposed to be going, or
Yeah, but no significant update, no.
the hole in on Water Street? Where does that stand?
There's been no sign of work on Homeland extension. So that's no sign of construction or anything. And then 860 Nobo, still awaiting a revised sidewalk layout.
Have you talked to Mike or Danny? Have they submitted any of the reports that are 6-8 months past due now?
For what?
So they're supposed to give the board a construction report as to what they've got done and where they're going. And
Just a progress report?
yes, I haven't seen anything. It's just close to a year. Or I said the board hasn't seen anything. So I had talked to Mike about it, and he said there should be something coming. That was 2 months ago.
I can follow up on that. I did have a And I communicated with the Conservation Commission on 726, the Toll Brothers development.
Okay. So that doesn't fall under this board?
Oh, correct.
That's a
yeah.
40B, so.
So I'll find out about the progress reports on 860,
Okay.
but nothing else to update.
Okay.
Unless you have any
Okay.
questions,
Board members, any questions for Kevin on any of these developments? Rob?
I don't have any.
No, I'm just wondering why we're seeing changes now after prior approvals. I'm not a great fan of
Oh,
this.
which is this now? Which property we
We're talking about the top of the hill here, right? No, I mean the,
One that he brought up was Berthold, which is down off of Essex Street.
yeah,
The other one is Homeland, which was started and then stopped, and I heard they were going to restart, and I don't know where that is. So someone said there was people up there working, and then people by, you don't see anything.
no, I've gone ahead and been reading, looking through some of the material, been seeing for the first time tonight. So that actually was hoping that we're onto something else here. No, almost there.
Okay. Nancy, do we have any new subdivisions? I mean, any new submissions, sorry.
We do have a new A&R for 5 Clark Street, 12 Fairview Street, and Holland Street, just submitted.
So we have 3, or is that all one A&R?
It's one. One. This one.
What was the second street?
Fairview Street and Holland Street.
So the next 3 are, it's not a public hearing, they're informal discussions, we can go forward, or we can take a short break. What's the wish of the board?
I say we go forward.
Okay, can I get a motion? Yeah, that's a motion.
I don't think we need one since there's no public hearing.
You might be correct on that, so. All right, we'll move forward on the subdivision site plan submission, Rivercrest Circle. You have someone representing?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, engineer, David Dwyer, Audie and Dwyer, Land Surveyors, 59 Appleton Street, here in Saugus. I haven't been able to make the last 2 meetings because they fell on seminars and whatnot that I was at, so, but, you know, this is an informal discussion and we're still trying to get the roadway approved and assigned Form K on it. I'm here to answer any questions on it. I think we've got basically everything except for the drainage.
So was the Form K ever redone? We asked, I think Nelson Chain was the board.
We have the Form K here with us.
We did that.
Yep. And, you know, there is, and I've been talking with the town engineer, Kevin, concerning, you know, the drainage and whatnot. We've been down there and we think we found the particle separator manhole. It is under the pavement, so that one has not been raised. We would like to get the Form K signed off, and then in the spring raise that manhole and inspect the particle separator at that time. Currently, my client is being held up for approximately $30,000. If we could release, say, 25 of that and hold 25 for the spring to make sure that that's done to the town's satisfaction.
Has that gone before town council? That's for approval?
The Form K?
Yeah, the Form K.
Nelson handled that.
Came to us.
Yeah, Nelson handled that,
It's
so,
going to the town council, yeah.
okay. We can find that out.
What I've been told.
Yep.
And that, the other one would be up to the DPW. on releasing funds, whatever they agreed on. And Kevin, I'm going to ask you to comment on that.
Yeah, so in terms of the work, the DPW's accepted the work that's done. My comment was on the drainage. In terms of the percentage of, what money to be released, I wouldn't be able to speak to that this time or know, how that would be determined.
Okay, but where they're asking to release some of the funds, I don't know who would actually do that thing. That would be town council, I believe.
The funds,
Before town meeting as well, doesn't it?
no, not for
Not
funds.
for the release?
No, the funds would be released by this board. The Form K would be accepted by this board.
Right.
The roadway at that point would become the town's responsibility. It would not become a public road until it goes before town meeting.
That I understand.
And on the, through the chair to the engineer, we did speak with Menino Construction today, who did all of the work down there, and he didn't think it would be any more than $3,000 to go down there, to cut them out, to infrared it, raise them up, which is the access to the particle separator, not the portholes that are in that, because there weren't any put in there. So the particle separator is somewhat in the middle of the cul-de-sac. We went down there the other day and I checked with my magnetic locator, and we thought we were hitting a signal, but you could also see almost a round spot where we were picking up a signal. So we're pretty confident something is under there. So, but Menino said it'd probably be around $3,000 to do that. We're only asking for 25, and there's probably more money in that account now, because I think there was
It's been 6 years, so.
been 6 years of a passbook to the town, so there's interest on that since 20.
But what we're looking to
18.
do is leave just 5,000 in the account.
I get it, yeah.
Whatever the balance is, be released, except for $5,000, just to raise them manholes.
Because the last meeting we talked about a different approach.
Well, last time we talked about that you could scope it with the, and the engineer recommended raising it, right? So,
I did, and there was the stormwater maintenance plan, and, again, when it take on ownership, I don't know the ability of the town to enforce that O&M plan, but that plan I read, it was to be inspected monthly and cleaned twice a year. Now, whether or not that gets done, it was a stormwater management plan from during the, think of it dated back to 2010.
Yeah, 2010, 2011.
And so I don't know if that's an ongoing.
Clean since then? This has been in, or-
there hasn't been any problems. Back up, right?
Yeah, it's a very small road.
Yeah.
It's not collecting a lot.
So in the past, we normally look for a certificate of cleaning before it's turned over to the town.
I think that's something they can do when they raise
I'm just trying
the,
to get all the,
yeah, they can, when he raises the portal or the, to inspect the particle separator, they can look at it then. I would assume the limited amount of road that's there, that it's not collecting much anyway. So nothing drains into it from Winter Street. It crests at Winter and then comes down. So there's nothing that's coming down Winter and into it. It's just the roadway itself.
I think Mr. Bush said you have one lot left there? Driveway's all in.
Driveways are in, water and sewer is on the last lot, so.
So we'll just, if we have the K form and it's signed by town council, then we could now take the next step. I don't know what Brendan's gonna require though, as far as the release. He does have to say within that.
From my understanding, the holdup was the sidewalk, and the sidewalk, there's an understanding of the other work that's been done, and got an approval to accept it pending my approval of the utilities. So if you need something in writing, if we need something in writing, I can get that. I don't know in the plowing, there's a request or expectation about when plowing would go into play, or?
Yeah, it's my understanding, once the Form K is signed and accepted by the planning board, that the plowing would take place by the town. I think currently, the trash is being picked up there. These people aren't putting the trash up on Winter Street, so, I mean, the two major things on a roadway is trash pickup and plowing, unfortunately, the town has had many roads that weren't accepted that they were actually repaired and rebuilt before we started getting into a lot of roadway acceptances. Richardson Circle was one that was about 30 years old that wasn't accepted by town meeting, which we went through with the DPW prior to Kevin's arrival. We went through with, under Brendan, to even back as far as Jimmy Waugh, to get a lot of these roads accepted that weren't. So, and some of them even had Form Ks, they just never went to town meeting. So
Bob, a lot of that acceptance is done by the town meeting.
How much is really in that book, the 30,000? It's 30,000 plus interest. How much is really there?
There was 60. There was 60 back in 16. 31 was released, so there should be 29 plus 6 years of interest.
So you think there's how much now? 20?
There could be maybe 30, 31,000 in there. So what we want to do is have everything released except for 5,000, which will
Why don't we
cover
We
raising.
should be given a written estimate, and then if it's far less than what we have in the book,
Yep.
or to release a portion of it. Get-go, it's Christmas time. Come on. No, I don't mean tonight.
No, I understand what you're saying, I'm just, I don't see the big holdup here, but it's just to follow along with what it's supposed to be. We need to take on, it's gotta be approved by town council before we can sign it. If we had a printout from the Treasury Department, or who's ever holding the bond, or holding the passport, and see where it's at.
I actually have a copy of the account here.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I'd like it from them.
Yeah.
Not that we don't
Yeah.
trust you.
Yeah.
So we could get this thing moved. Not that we don't like seeing you.
Right, I think last time, when the money was released, you guys just voted on it, and I think Wendy or whatever took me over to the bank, and we signed the release and got the money.
Any other questions from board members?
No, I want to say.
So we're gonna ask for a written estimate.
Right, we're gonna ask for a signed K copy by town council.
Okay.
We'll get a written estimate from the treasurer. And once we have that, I don't see what the holdup is with the board. I think we're ready to go as long as we have the information.
So will we have to come back in front of the board
Well, I
again?
don't think you'll have to come back in front of the board, but it's something that could be done internally.
Well, then we would have to vote tonight, wouldn't we?
We can't vote.
On the stipulation that of those things.
Well, you have to hold on to some of the money, make sure that the estimate that's presented
Yeah,
was
so
is completed.
unfortunately,
But
maybe one more trip. But I'll follow through with Nancy and have her go to the treasury and have her get in touch with town council. We'll do it this week, so they'll be in and out, I believe, on the next meeting. So, it's just that I don't want to put my hands and head on the chopping block. We're not ready to pull the trigger, that's the only thing. So,
I mean, in the meantime, if Menino could get in there and raise the cover, would you want to do that, or would you want to wait?
I don't think that's gonna be a holdup. I mean, you're not gonna get the patching this time of year that you're gonna want. Normally, you lay down asphalt now, it disintegrates by the time spring comes with the plowing and the salt, so. So it's not the wait, as long as we have that in writing, is a guarantee from you. So I'm saying, it's just the other stuff is really legal.
Yep.
So we're just trying to follow the book right now.
Want to continue the discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I just want to go over what the conversation has been. So we need the Form K reviewed by the town council and approved.
Yes, sir.
A statement from the treasurer as far as how much money is in there.
Yes, sir.
Estimate on the cost to raise the manholes, and then whatever the guarantee would be $5,000 that would do that in the spring. I mean, I think it's prudent that it's done in the spring and not now. So that's the 4 items that I have.
4 items.
Okay.
Get that, next meeting we'll bring it up and see what we can do with it. I mean, I'd also like Kevin to give a written statement on it. And Brendan's opinion, I don't see any written opinion from the DPW, so.
Okay. And one thing I would ask to include going forward, when that particle separator is cleaned out, we get some sort of bill or weigh ticket, because we submit to the state how much tonnage we take out of the catch basins per year. So however often, might not be often you have to do it, but that would be some information we'd like to submit in the MS4.
One question to you, if I may. Is there any type of form for who's going to maintain that? Once the developer turns it over, is there a HOA?
City Association.
There is an association.
Now, what about, will we need an extension? Because if we run into the spring, I don't know when the permit expires. I don't want to run into that it's going to be expired.
I thought you just renewed the permit.
We did, but I'm not sure. Hopefully it's beyond the spring. Right, we don't want to be cutting it too close.
Yeah, or until June, I think.
I thought it was up until June.
It's good till June?
I
I
believe so.
thought that's what it was.
Okay.
If that's something we could find out from
Right.
Nancy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure there's not a problem, that it's expired.
Yes. Any other questions? Any other input? Kevin? Yes,
All set.
Thank you.
motion to close?
Bob made a motion.
You made a motion.
Motion to continue the discussion.
Second.
3-0. So, we'll do some homework, Dave, and
Yep.
either get back to you or have Nancy get back to Mr. Boyd.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is a informal discussion, Chase Bank, site plan modification, additional parking. All engineering.
If you need me to move
Yeah.
for the camera at all.
To your left.
You see that, Rich?
See the report.
Did you answer?
Yeah.
Good evening, Nick Dewhurst with Bowler, here on behalf of the applicant JP Morgan Chase. So I'm sure you remember, back in September, we got site plan approval for the proposed bank and drive-through at 156 180 Main Street. The proposed plan, focusing on this sort of area here, proposed just solely landscaping up at this corner of the development. We've since been going through the building permit process, and at some point, the landlord was taking kind of a deeper dive into the plans and requested that we provide additional parking specifically in this area. So what their idea was is doing 5 spaces here and then 5 spaces here. which is what this sketch represents. It's really the only change to these plans. It doesn't really have any adverse effects on what was approved from a stormwater standpoint. The site or the proposed development is still providing a significant amount of pervious surfaces that don't exist in the existing condition. Doesn't affect anything from a zoning compliance standpoint as far as open space, impervious surfaces, parking. Of course, the site was adequately parked from a zoning perspective as approved, and this just increases that by providing additional parking spaces. Our hope is that we view this as sort of a minor modification, and our hopes are that you folks agree. So happy to answer any questions or.
Did you submit a plan to that for the board?
Yes, I sent this plan over to Nancy.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do we have a copy of the plan that we approved? Do you have a
Yeah, I do. So this is a rendering of the approved site plan. So you can see this was really all landscaping, grass, and then a handful of trees. We'll maintain the same amount of plantings and trees. We'll just relocate them around those parking spaces.
Through you, Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
Those spaces
Mhm.
on each side of the roadway, are people going to pull in there and then back out into the throughway?
Up here?
The main roadway that goes through there?
Yeah, and that's a good question. So the proposed condition does provide 5 spaces sort of in that main drive aisle.
Aren't you guys concerned about somebody getting butt-ended up there?
Yeah, I mean, so.
I travel that.
No, yeah, and I remember when we were out on site, we I had the opportunity to see kind of the traffic patterns out there. And candidly, it's the landlord that's proposing and asking for these additional
Do
spaces.
we have anything from the landlord that is given to you, for you to come here to ask us to revise a plan?
I mean, this sketch is directly from them. I'm sure I can get something in writing from them.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we have something.
I do.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
I missed the meeting where the final plan was approved.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, you could probably answer,
Yeah.
was anything required within that area that they want to change?
So we were presented with, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
we were presented with a great photo of landscaping, which I think
Yeah.
enhances the bank, and now we're going back to parking. I don't
Yeah.
know how those trees are gonna fit in that space if we take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see the green shaded area here, that is what's going to remain landscaping. So there is, in my mind, still a pretty substantial amount of area and green space up in that corner. And to answer your question, Richard, we as I showed on this plan, we did have, it looks like 4 trees in that area. I think 2 of them can stay where they are, and these other 2 can kind of shift around. Maybe one in this corner and one up in that corner.
So what does that do for flow and drainage?
So it really won't affect it. The way this will be graded is these spaces will grade this way. If you remember, there's sort of a ridge line at this area of the site. From here on, it kind of flows up to the drainage, these catch basins up in the existing parking area here. And down here, it all sort of flows this way. So the spaces will just be pitched in a way that it'll just flow out and maintain the existing drainage patterns.
So what does it do to your stormwater? Now you've increased the amount of.
Yep. So it doesn't have any effects as far as triggering the requirement for any infiltration or anything like that. The reason being is, and Beta agreed with our stormwater approach from a requirement standpoint, but the site, this is entirely paved today.
Has this been passed on to Beta?
I have not shared this with Beta. I don't know if, but the site is entirely paved today, and we're adding, a significant amount of pervious surfaces that will naturally decrease peak rates of runoff and as well as improve water quality volume. Though this does, decrease from that amount of pervious being proposed, it by no means puts us beyond a threshold where it would require any additional stormwater improvements.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
getting back to that plan.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, getting back to that plan right there. Since I'm a frequent user of that space up there, well, the Stop and Shop or whatever. That roadway can be dangerous in and of itself because you have supposedly a stop sign there where you have the rounded curve. Nobody ever stops. They just keep going, So now you're gonna have 5 spaces there, which is already somewhat of a hazard. And then you're gonna have 5 spaces backing out into the main traffic roadway going through the mall. Going through that area. I'd like to know why. That is a very big parking lot. There's plenty of parking. So why would there be why would we have the necessity of a change?
So, honestly, I agree with what you're saying. Candidly, I believe from what I understand, the landlord got feedback from some of the tenants that, so typically what's done when a project like this is proposed as sort of within an overall plaza, is they require, it's typically known as third-party approvals. The way a lot of these leases will be drawn up with these other tenants is if there's any changes within the site or that affect their parking area, it requires these third-party approvals. And I believe during that process, one of the tenants flagged it and said, we would like, additional parking spaces. For the reasoning, I don't know, because, from my opinion, and I think we all probably share this opinion, it seems like this, from a practicality standpoint, is pretty overparked in general. So, but that's really, it's a landlord and tenant preference just to add those additional parking spaces.
I think the landlord and the tenant who's concerned should get together. Are they gonna pay for any damages or whatever done to the vehicles that do get hurt while they're backing out of parking spaces? Because people are gonna park nose in and they're gonna back out. So, into travel lanes, that's crazy.
Yeah, I understand your concern. It's not a roadway. It is still part of the drive aisle within an overall plaza. And there are similar conditions really throughout the plaza where you have parking sort of directly abutting a drive aisle. If these 5 spaces are the main concern, we're happy to offer, they could be designated as like Chase employee parking spaces only, or something like that, if that kind of helps ease any of your concerns. But regarding these 5 spaces, we actually have the existing condition that's going to be maintained on the other side directly across of the...
Mr. Chairman, frankly, I'd rather see a commitment from the owner telling us that this change is necessary. That development up there, by the way, I'm already getting negative feedback on it, just to let you know, from people who travel around. Now you have the convenient care too, as well as new restaurants. So.
I'm sorry, you're getting
I'm just saying that
negative feedback.
You're on the east side of the roadway. The track, traverses that whole big lot. So what I'm saying is that I don't see the value of making this change to public safety. That's what it comes down to.
Okay. The only other thing I would add is we did submit a traffic study as part of the original filing, and Beta peer reviewed the traffic circulation in this site pretty, extensively. And
how do you feel every time you get in your car and you park nose in and you're going back out into a traveled way?
Again, I guess it defines. I'd like to define sort of a travel way. It's.
I don't mean to be argumentative. I'm just saying, from a practical standpoint, there's a danger here that we're increasing, not helping. That's my point.
I think during our walkthrough, Nick, the engineer, observed the raceway that it becomes. It's just, they come flying up and just, I personally think it's a safety issue. I just don't know how we can fix it. I do understand third-party input, but I think we need to be a little bit more, the dependent on safety before,
Mhm.
before anything else. It's jumped right out at me as soon as I looked at it. for the
Yep.
same reason. I mean, I think we took the dumpster out of that area because of that, and went to daily pickups, and
Yep.
so nothing's really changed as to what we originally had said.
Mhm.
Now we're putting 10 parking spaces, basically, yeah, in harm's way. I mean, I can't think of another way of saying it.
I'm sorry, and not to parse words, you mentioned 10. It sounds like the concern is mainly isolated to these 5, correct?
Well, you have the same condition, not as bad to the ones that are facing Main Street
Yeah.
as you do the ones that are facing home decor and
Yep.
backing into those areas.
Yeah, because the 5 on this side, you know, as I mentioned before, it's the exact same condition directly across the drive aisle, and those are existing spaces to be maintained. As far as I'm concerned, I'm certainly not, you know, up in this plaza every day, but I don't think there's been any real issues with cars accessing those parking spaces from a safety standpoint. And I don't believe it's anything, you know, Beta or our traffic consultant specifically flagged in a report as being a problematic area. I think the issue with these 5 spaces, I think we certainly can understand, you know, where you're coming from a safety standpoint up there. That's again, if it helps at all.
Because the traffic, even the walkways you could run there, come into that drive-up.
Yes.
If you went to angle parking, not trying to do your design.
Yeah.
If we went to angle parking, so that they had to come into the Chase property, angle park, and then they'd be backing out into something that's a little bit less dangerous. I mean, you have to move a couple around. Got a lot of green space to the left side there. Even if you took the corner and made 2 a little larger, put the green space down where you're taking them from, it's just a, I hate to say it's a horrible design. Putting someone in that type of predicament. Because
Yep.
Does it happen now? Yeah, but it happens and it's wide open.
Yep.
So you have nothing, you put trees up there on that corner, now you're gonna block whatever they get to see. They gotta get up past the tree to make sure nothing's coming this way, although it is a lane on the other side, but
Yeah.
it's just too many obstacles there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, again, this sketch is directly from the landlord.
Yep.
I don't think the landlord wants to create any unsafe conditions, you know, within their own their own plaza.
Yep.
I guess it sounds like there's differing opinions as far as if it's unsafe or not.
We understand the third party, and I think that was one of the first questions I had for you, Nick. That is the parking lot for Wildwoods,
Mhm.
which can get very busy on a Bruins game, Patriots game. Seems to bring a lot of hometown people to that establishment.
Yep.
And they park everywhere. So, and then after having a few beers, they come out, no one knows better than me, they get them racing off. So, it's just, I'd like to have you put some input in it. I'd like for you to send it to, this is my personal again, send it to Beta and have them take a look at it and they can comment to us. But I'll open it up to the board for any other discussion. Richard?
I actually curious. Do you have a drawing of the larger area? It's been a while since I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What it looks like beyond.
So this is the approved sort of rendering.
See, on that, it protects everything that's in those two lanes of passage. Now put people 10 spaces in harm's way by backing out.
So where's the stop sign on that one?
It was on the corner.
Yeah, so this rendering's slightly outdated. One of our last iterations of the plan that was ultimately approved is actually this. It's a little less clear because it's our black and white site plan, but the stop controls were added. So there's a stop sign here, stop sign there, as well as a painted stop bar. So those are adopted in the approved plans.
But do you see how those angled spaces would work with the flow of the traffic on the bank?
So are you saying angled spaces up here, or?
Maybe with a curb, so that they can't pull out, they gotta come back out through the bank,
So
which slows it
somewhere-
down a little bit. The race doesn't go on. I mean, you had mentioned that the bank is closed at nighttime, the bank is closed on Sundays. So they'd be able to use the parking that exists within the bank. So it just doesn't give them the opportunity to squeeze tires back up and then crack the car that's coming down, or vice versa.
Yep.
It's just too open right now.
And does the idea of designating these spaces for employee parking only, does that?
It helps a little bit, but now you're putting the employees at risk too. If someone's had a stressful day and they come out, they're not thinking, they just back up, bang, before they know it. It's not so much them as it is the people that race through that parking lot.
Yep.
I was gonna make a comment, Mr. Chairman.
So
The parking that's on the, faces the ramp going down to Route 1. On an average today, whether it's not really used. We used to park, what do you call it, the trailer, tractor trailers over there. And, so I mean, it hasn't been, is it going to be used now? Yeah, it's going to be used now. People are pulling there, walk over to your bank. So I think the other tenant you're looking for is more than necessary.
it's not that they're looking for it, Bob. It's that the owner has a contract with the other two restaurants that are there for parking, that they supply the parking. So it's a third party.
Yeah, and I don't just to.
So he's trying to find them more parking, but he's not doing it in a safe way. And I'm not blaming Nick for it, but it is taken away from probably what they agreed on.
And just to be clear, I by no means know that it's what tenant is requesting any of these changes.
It's all over town. So, but we'll just keep it at that.
I guess the only other thing that I would ask is if we did remove these 5, entirely from this proposal, but did move forward with these 5, is that something that you folks would be amenable to?
It's better than what we got. But again, I'd like Beta to give us their professional opinion on it,
On these 5 parking spaces?
on whatever the changes he makes. They'll give it to us on the 10, but whatever changes that he makes. This has been submitted and is set for approval by the board. So this would be either a minor change or a major change is what we'd be voting on tonight.
So I think what we would ask is, and I think working through this with Beta, we're more than happy to do that. If it could be voted as a minor modification, and then we sort of work through it with Beta, get Beta's approval, and sort of work through that process administratively with planning and Beta to get the approval, rather than deeming this a major. And the reason for that is we have filed for building permit. I believe they're looking to start construction out there within the next month or two. So time sort of is of the essence. So I think we would.
This was a springtime project.
So if that's what we mentioned during the permitting process, again, I believe what I said was we're sort of out of those conversations as far as timelines go.
Well, not really, because now you have something that's different than what you originally had a projection on. So it is a change. It's up to the board to vote whether it's minor or major. But I would ask Kevin if he has any input.
I'm wondering if the green space was part of the original design or a product of some review comments from the board.
It was a product of review comment.
Yeah, I can give some
Comments from the board, which when they presented that made it look a little bit more appealing. We had asked them to turn the bank around so that it was facing Route 1, but that was denied by the bank itself. They didn't want to do that. So we're looking for a little bit of enhancement, a big open black parking lot. And Nick did a good job with it, but now it's being taken away, so.
Yeah, that's how I'm looking at it. proposing adding parking, but from the other direction, it's deleting some of this green space that
So if I
may
can,
have been a deciding factor. One other thing about it is I've looked at the plans and we've had some talk. It's very close to that 1 acre. You know, I feel like during construction, it is going to be bigger than 1 acre, which, you know, might trigger some more stormwater requirements. I don't know, but, you know, from a deletion of an approved green space, I think we need to not only evaluate the numbers in terms of the drainage, but the aesthetics and what we thought we were getting, you know, as a product, because now you have 5 dissected pieces of green space as opposed to, you know, the conceptual design.
so I guess just a few things to respond to on that. First
And
off,
I'd ask the board too if they have any other thoughts on what I said, or to give me any more history, you know?
That was my first question is, well, does it increase the space
Yeah.
for the stormwater report?
so can I respond to that one? So, and I'm happy to get a confirmation from Beta on the stormwater. The Massachusetts and local stormwater requirements, basically, the requirements state that any increase or you essentially have to match the existing peak rates from a rates standpoint and a volume standpoint. Really what those rates are a product of is impervious surfaces. So when you're adding any pervious surfaces from what exists in the existing condition, you're automatically right there decreasing those peak rates and volumes, which is the requirement of the Massachusetts stormwater standards. So the proposed condition, though the approved plans did provide more pervious surfaces, we're still significantly increasing the amount of pervious surfaces. So from a stormwater requirement standpoint, we're still well beyond what's required, even with these. Candidly, we could remove all green spaces except, you know, one small portion, and it would still meet the local and state requirements. Obviously, we're not going to do that. But again, that's something I'm happy to just put in an email to Beta. Please confirm that, you know, you have no concerns from a stormwater standpoint. And just to touch on sort of the history of how this area came to be, ultimately, if you remember, we did have parking in this area. Really, why this area was rearranged is because there's a minimum stacking requirement of 80 feet for the drive-through use. Our initial design did not provide that 80 feet. So really the only way for us to get that was to sort of loop around and kind of this, that sort of radii fashion. So that's sort of where it kind of created this green space. At the time, the reason we weren't proposing parking there is because really it wasn't flagged by either Chase or the landlord, and it wasn't required from a zoning standpoint. So we, you know, just decided not to, just make it all landscaping.
And it was a big push to the board. We like to see that greenery. We like
Yep.
enhancement. So the board we were kind of sold on what you presented then.
Okay.
Now it's not there anymore. It's basically it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, I mean,
So, and it's like explained by Mr. Long. They don't stop. They fly through there.
Yep.
I mean, I think you witnessed that at the sidewalk that night.
Mhm.
But is there any other questions?
Well, one other thing, you don't mind, with calling that green space and still maintaining those trees will have a mulch bed, so, you know, in terms of lawn area, I think the overall concept is going to be greatly changed too. You know, a lawn with some trees versus mostly trees and mulch, just from a, you know, environmental and landscape perspective.
Sure.
You know, if you had a landscape architect design of the condensed, you know, keeping the same amount of plantings in those areas, I guess it'd be a big reduction in lawn if there was lawn there.
Is this in regarding stormwater?
No, just the aesthetics and the design,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, our landscape team, we have an in-house landscape architectural team that any changes that could potentially occur here, they'll take a real detailed look at it and dress it up and make it. I know, John, you'd mentioned visibility, trees. So that's something that we always take into account. So any relocating of trees would certainly be looked at, and we wouldn't relocate anything to a point where it would make any unsafe condition.
The only thing that really scares me is the safety to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Even people that walk from across the way on Main Street, when they do use it, I've seen that place packed on the side.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, now they're looking for a bunch of things that happen there. It's gonna get very confusing at that point. But I'll let anyone else, Rich, do you have any questions?
No. Got a couple design ideas.
So,
Just a comment, the stacking of the cars using the window there. What's the difference, how much did you say the spacing would have to be allowed between the cars and going to the stacking for the window?
So it's 80 feet is what's required by zoning. We're providing a little more than that.
Because the stacking starts in the lane coming at them.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I follow.
You got your stacking going this way.
Yep.
You got your coming down from the main parking lot, coming that way. So you're gonna already have a situation with cars crossing in front, or if they get bunched up.
Yeah, yeah. I understand what you're saying. What we see that's typical for Chase is a 4-car stack, which is really what the 80 feet represents. It's a car at a window and then 3 vehicles behind it. That's really, really rare for one of these drive-throughs. And again, this is just a drive-through ATM. It's not, a teller window, so transactions are usually pretty quick. So the event that we're looking at here, where you have that 4-car stack, is very rare for a Chase bank, which is why we initially went in with I want to say it was like a 45-foot stack, because that's sort of what Chase was comfortable with initially, but then we ran into the zoning requirement of 80 feet. So.
I'm just thinking about car wash. Up on Route 1.
Oh yeah, we do a lot of car wash work, and those get.
Stacking up there is bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
But the cars could go too wide in that?
So this is just a full-length bypass lane.
Okay.
So cars can actually go around the stack.
Yep. So it's not necessarily meant as a drive aisle. What it's really there for, and we do a lot of drive-through programming, whether it's quick service restaurants or banks, and that bypass lane is typically looked at as a positive thing from a safety standpoint. If you're in the queue and for whatever reason you need to leave, if you have an emergency, or you can kind of exit that way. So that's mainly what it's for. It's not necessarily for, if you park here, you're gonna exit the site that way.
No. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, what else you want to do with this, but
I'd like to see it, another rendering. I'd like to see a letter from the landlord himself making the request. I'm sure this is shot from the hip. Like you said, this is the landlord that did this. Sure, he has an engineer or someone behind him. But I'd like to see what you can come up with to see if we can rectify this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It won't go to a vote tonight because it's not a public meeting, whether it's minor or major. This is just an informal discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives you time. The faster you do your homework, get back on the board with us, then we can keep this moving in the right direction. This was determined that this site will be fully enclosed for public safety during the operation of this, correct?
Construction?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And now we're pushing the fence right back out to the road again.
Yeah, well, I mean, our limit of disturbance is right along here anyway, so it wouldn't change any construction fencing limits, but
Construction materials, they're gonna be up there where those 10 parking spots are.
Well, they would have to use it because there's,
While they do the main building.
yes, there is, you think that they may have to do some hammering up there? You think that-
I can't say. I know we did encounter ledge the geotechnical engineer encountered ledge as far as what that requires for removal from a foundation standpoint. I'm not entirely sure.
So we still have some open ends which is gonna have to be allowed for. So the question is, you may have to pull out into that roadway to do some of your construction. So it's gonna be tough during the construction period. And then you said it was a springtime startup, so it throws us a little bit too. So I don't have any objection, you get a permit, and they wanna start now, I have no objections to that. That'd be up to the building department or to the DPW. But I think that if you take a better look at this, see if we can come up with something a little bit different, a little bit more safe, then we should be able to keep it going.
Okay.
You provide us with the letter. I mean, I'm sure that the bank isn't too happy that this is gonna happen, but it's just part of the process. It's all about public safety.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Nope. Understood.
Can we get a motion to close this discussion? Then you don't really
Make
need
a
a motion.
close the discussion pending further.
Further information.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Thank you.
we appreciate your time and everything that the faster we get the return.
Yep.
I think you understand what we're looking at as far as public safety.
As far as you're concerned?
That's been since day one. That's why we asked you about moving the dumpsters.
Yeah.
Backing out into that road or pulling across the street or wherever it is. We have, let's see, we have a second and final discussion on Raising Cane, site plan review, master plan review. Attorney Mr. Magrum.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Attorney Richard Magnan, 194 Central Street, Saugus, representing the applicant regarding this request for modification of the master plan and the site plan. The details of the requested changes or modifications were provided to you, including the plans and a cover letter regarding the specifics. With me this evening is Matt Ashley from Bowler, another Bowler presentation, and Ted Nickley, the landlord of the property and the trust that owns all that area around it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt to go through the plans.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Good. You.
Matt Ashley with Bowler here on behalf of the applicant, Raising Cane's, for the previously approved Raising Cane's development. Thanks for everyone being here week before Christmas. Appreciate it, and taking a look at this. So we're here today for a couple of minor updates for the 799 Broadway Raising Cane's development. I'll walk you through both of the updates, kind of where they came from, what we're proposing, the differences. We did submit fully updated plans that changed to the board. And then also we produced these red line plans so you can kind of easily oversee what's changing between what was previously approved and what we're proposing now. So I'll start with, I'm going to call it the driveway modification. So this was a result of some ongoing coordination with the abutting restaurant use next door. We previously proposed some modifications on the adjacent property, which were kind of on the property line here and how it would intersect. For at the time when we were working with them, what we thought was the best and most appropriate action. As construction started getting going, and obviously really far into it now, those views were kind of changed from what was wanted from the abutting property owner and operator. So working with them, we came up with the proposed plan that you see before you today. Really keeps the same intent of everything, and it'll largely keep what's out there in the existing condition today, which is their preference. But essentially all it is just shifting the drive aisle over slightly closer to the Raising Cane's, giving a little further separation from the adjacent use and the parking spots that they have over there, and just realigning the initial intersection up front to really what it is. So if you do come in on the Raising Cane's property, it's a quick left over into the Route 1 Grill House area, which would just be a one-way over into that way now instead of a two-way, so traffic would just go over into that way. Everything, all that work is, any updates is proposed contained on site, and really it's just keeping what's out there on the adjacent property. It is their property, so respecting their wishes, and just some minor updates on our side as shifting everything over. The second item we have here is the proposed sewer connection. Initially what was proposed for the Raising Cane's development was a 6-inch gravity connection from the development over out behind really the Sullivan Tire operation out there to an existing sewer manhole. Really looked at this at length. It's a decently long run, and the previous town engineer worked with him at length. We went out, we GPR'd, we did SUE, we did test pits, we did potholes, we videoed every line that we found out there, and came up with a plan that we were both comfortable with and we thought was the best approach, doing a gravity system connection. Like construction projects go, of course, the contractor out there was doing some more GPR on the route that once he got everything staked out, and of course there was an unidentified electric line that came just off of our property there. We did pick up something in that area before, and it literally falls kind of like right on top of the existing stormwater pipe out there. So we thought it was the stormwater pipe, ended up being 2 items out there. We thought we had it resolved, and really couldn't get around it. So we tried to look at other gravity options, but what the end result is the best approach, and certainly not the cheapest, is to now propose a on-site pump station out there. So essentially what we are proposing is we take the initial sewer manhole 1, that'll be converted into a pump chamber that will house 2 dual operating pumps, so they'll rotate every cycle, so no one pump is becoming stagnant at any time. They're always getting exercised daily. Anything prior to that, the gravity line coming across the front, the grease trap, that's all going to be the same. The pump station will be located all past that, and then it'll go into a 2-inch force main, same exact route in the recorded easement that everyone's seen before, discharging to the same location and then out and back. So I know some other important details that I'm sure you're wondering is this will always be maintained and operated, so that this wouldn't be the town's responsibility. This would be the applicant's responsibility to maintain this. We also supplied over to the town a O&M plan for it, and what that would look like in maintenance. And I think one of the additional comments we got was just making sure it does get maintained, so it does stay on the site and maintained, and we'd be happy to submit reports, I think, consistent with like a grease trap or anything else like that, just so the town knows that the applicant is maintaining the pump station correctly and frequently. And then the benefit to the adjacent landowner as well is now that instead of having a 6-inch pipe, we just have a 2-inch little force main. We're reducing the amount of structures, so we'll be getting rid of the sewer manhole 2. That'll just be a 45-degree bend, which was all the bends were accounted for in the pump station design. And it'll be a much quicker construction.
What type of restriction are you planning on in that 45-degree level?
Restriction.
2-inch line? What type of restriction?
What does that mean? I'm
Well, the
sorry.
flow from the 2-inch forced main, putting it into a 45-degree angle rather than a sweep.
Oh, I forget the exact equivalent length, but for each bend, there is an equivalent length that you have to count for like a head loss or for the pumps, and that was taken into account with each of the pumps, the bends.
So who's designed the pump system?
It is the pump station designer, who's also the one that's going to be constructing it as well.
And has Steve Bowley been, from Tetra Tech, has he been informed of this?
I believe the on-site inspections that they have, they've been talking about it out there as well.
They haven't got any word back to us in the last report.
No, they haven't started constructing it yet, so I don't think they would have anything in their report. And then one just last item too is just this, it would maintain exactly where it was before, and then it would just be a lot less intrusive for the neighbor here.
We're gonna eliminate that manhole. How is it gonna be maintained?
Just like a normal pump station, they would, there will be clean outs on either side, in the pump chamber and at the exit, and that's typically how they would maintain
So
it.
what is the length of the run, if I may, from point to point? From where it ties into the city, to the town storage, from where the injection pit is?
So there's two lengths. We have 135 and 177, so roughly 300, a little more than 300 linear feet.
With no catch basins or cleanouts?
No, yeah, it's a pretty short length typically for a system like this. It's nothing too abnormal that we've seen.
I think Mr. Nickley will testify to being in the restaurant business myself for 27 years, and having something that was half the distance, I created tons of problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't agree with that's why it says they're designed from the people that have designed the system.
Yeah. So that was submitted. It's in the back of our details. They have full pump station, the O&M maintenance, and for our restaurant use. Obviously not our preference. Obviously, we wanted to do gravity, but under these circumstances, if anything else does come up, it'll be under pressure, so we can navigate around anything that could potentially be on the site as well. But the contractor's been pretty diligent about really looking into this area to make sure that's not going to come up again.
Can I ask if you have any questions on this?
Well, when you look to the maintenance plan and also, perhaps more like an emergency response clean out, if you did have a backup, just to consider, can the clean out equipment make that bend as well? Some of these jetters are large, or long, where I don't know if it's been thought out that the equipment could, get around that bend is one thought. And aside from that, the deletion of this manhole, like having that, because it is not a straight 300 feet, I guess that's just, it was there to be a service point to the line at either bend. So that's being removed, and just thinking of it from, if I was the one that was cleaning it out, and there was a problem, I would want to be able to get at it in the middle.
So I will say that the installer typically they're going to be the ones that will maintain the system as well. So I don't want to speak for them, but I don't think they would install anything that they wouldn't maintain themselves. I can certainly confirm with them that there wouldn't be a problem, but I've worked with them pretty significantly in other jobs and longer runs with bends, and it's never been a concern to them. If it is a big concern from the board, I can obviously ask them if we can put in something at the bend.
I know this was a big bone of contention when the past engineer was here, and I know all the scoping that you did. It worked then. And you say now it doesn't work. The pitch is from one point to the other in 300 feet is less than what? It's only about a foot, about 12 inches.
No, I think it's,
In the point of,
it's level, basically.
Yeah, it's very minimal pitch that you'd want to see on a sewer, so.
Another reason why I'm asking the possibility of putting a manhole in, because of that, and everyone knows that a grease trap will catch 90% of it, but doesn't catch all of it. So you give it a 2-year period, that line backs up, we'll have a disaster up there.
Are you talking about the new force main?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'd be under pressure, so it's actually pitched to go slightly uphill the whole way, so the pumps work efficiently.
So do you have any again, from the designer, do you have any head pump information for the engineer?
Yeah, we submitted a whole packet of the design and the head loss and the friction loss for everything, and that's how the pumps came to be.
It is something that will be maintained by Keynes as long as Keynes is there?
Yep.
If Keynes should decide to leave Saugus, then who maintains it? Is that the owner? Do you own this line, Ted?
Yeah.
So, and the only thing that it services at this present time is just Keynes.
The pump station, correct, yep. And that's all it's fitted
So the
for.
restaurant next door is not tied into this? Where do they go?
I can't say for certain, but from looking at where I can connect my sewer, I think it goes out back behind the shopping center, further north on Route 1. It goes down the back driveway and out to the right, I believe. I can't say for sure, but...
Respond.
Yes, sir.
It does tie into the main. Ted Nickley, 821 Broadway rear. It does tie into the main. The main goes right along the property line from Avalon, from the hilltop. It goes right along there all the way to Forest Street. So Sullivan Tire goes to it. The grill house goes to it. This will go right to the main. It won't go to the grill house. That was one of the first designs they had. They were gonna dump into the grill house manhole. And to me, it was a liability problem. Like, who's backing it up? Who's cleaning it?
Yeah.
So this is why they're gonna make the run all the way to the main. Okay, so essentially it does go to the same main, but it's not the same connection in the manhole in the back.
So this cuts through the parking lot that's behind Sullivan Tire?
Yes,
Yeah.
between the body shop and the grill house, kinda, right in the back.
Is there a place to clean up?
There's no clean out from start to finish except for
At the pit?
just where the pumps are still located. And then it goes all the way down to Forest Street. It seems to be an awful long run with no cleanups. It's just, well, they can get in and they can mechanically break that pipe and stink, especially at that 45-degree bend. That starts filling up. And if you've done any of these, you understand that with the swirl of the forest main, it's like relining a pipe with the grease that goes on it.
Yep.
And that elbow right there, just the 45 is, boy, I know it's not a 90.
Yep.
But if you had a sweep there, it would help you, especially where you're gonna be backfilling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something that you can ask your designer to look at, and I will check with Tetra Tech. And this is for everyone's protection, not only yours, but I don't want to see the town have to accept responsibility of this because it's tied into the town, so.
No, yeah, it's definitely understood, and the way that it's written, I'll be privately maintained by the applicant. I obviously can't speak to when they're not there, but they don't have intentions of going anywhere. And I can certainly look into softening this, maybe a couple bends versus a hard 45 or a sweep like you're looking at. I can ask them what their preference is, but this is what we came up with together with working with them, and they didn't have any problems with it.
If you had help with pitch, although it is still a forced line, but if you had help with it, it would still, after the pump shuts off, because it's only gonna call for what's in the chamber at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that flotation device is gonna come up. You may still have, because of the pitch, time for that to set. The sediment of grease starts to form. I see problems with this real quick.
Gotcha.
So, because the post main doesn't continue after the chamber's empty. Once that chamber, how big is the chamber?
Forget the exact.
250, 500 gallon?
Yeah, I think it's like 350. It's on the details page. I don't see it there, unfortunately. Yeah, I think it's in the larger report. I don't have with me, unfortunately. But yeah, no.
The way this was, when you were here, this is something that stays busy from the time they open to the time they close. So that these will be pumping all the time, and when they do close, it sits down so that grease solidifies.
Yeah, and it definitely goes into the operation and maintenance, which.
For that type of run, with no pitch, I see issues.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can certainly go back to them with those concerns, and if we can certainly add pitch to it, like you said, because we're going to be under pressure, so we can go up a little higher or down.
Well, you still have to check the invert out.
Yeah, we would clean up at the
Kevin
end.
would help you with that. I don't know what the drop is on the line by the time it gets to the bottom.
Yeah, I believe that manhole that's being tied into is the pipe leading out is only a couple feet below grade. Is that right?
Yeah, there's not a ton of room there, but yeah.
And is the 2-inch a product of? That's kind of what, like if you went to a 3, the pump couldn't handle it, or you'd have to use a bigger pump.
There's just not enough flow to really justify the 3-inch. There wouldn't be enough pressure, so it just becomes really inefficient and wouldn't be the best. So they ran the model looking at, I believe, the 1.5, 2, 3, and 2 made the most sense with the use in the pumps.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to take and run a 2-inch line from start all the way down to the manhole down on Forest Street.
No.
Okay, so where does your 2-inch stop?
2-inch well, it starts right here on the site, just as you come in from the pump chamber, and then it will stop right out behind Sullivan Tire, where we tie into the existing sewer.
So you're gonna excavate that, or you're gonna snake it through the existing manhole?
They will core into the existing manhole and put in the fittings, clean out, and chimney drop it down so it doesn't go shooting in. Goes into the flow channel.
No emergency access from that end?
From the start, right at the present, the way it's being presented, Mr. Thompson, is from the start of where the pump chamber is, all the way across that parking lot, 300-something feet, to where it actually goes into town service. There's no inspections, there's no nothing, there's no manhole. I'd like to see a manhole stay somewhere in the middle, and the possibility of a clean out on top of that 2-inch so that they could pick it up and push from there or jet from there.
Yeah, I can certainly go back and work with them for what's the most appropriate here. Sometimes introducing those additional structures just create more open areas and places for problems. And I know they're going to be the ones that maintain it, so I'd lean on them and what they think, and I can certainly weigh your concerns about, hey, can we just get a clean out or something in here so halfway we can do something if we need to, but...
They're the designers, they know best.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get the input from them, something in writing from them.
Yeah, not a problem.
We'll be maintaining it.
Yep, we already have the maintenance and everything drafted, all that. I sent that over, I believe, to your office or with Rich, and but I can follow up with them on what we can do with that bend, softening it, inspection port, something, what they think will be best. And in writing from them.
And the size of the pipe that we have there now, is a 6 or an 8?
Going out
Yes.
is 8, I think.
8-inch, correct, yep.
You have some, it's just that it's flat.
Oh, from the 8-inch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from the Sullivan Tire and I think the existing
Well,
restaurant.
that's where it leaves from the final manhole. There's nothing from Raising Cane's to that
No.
that manhole they're tying into on the, which is the detail.
So what size is the existing pipe now from King's? There is
Nothing.
Yeah, it was an on-site cesspool previously, on-site, for the prior use, not us.
Okay.
So that's gone, been removed and closed with the Board of Health.
So they could step the pipe up, need be.
The, what pipe, sorry?
So the injection pit, we maybe need a bigger pump to make sure we're gonna get the push through that flat line. So by going from 2 to 3, it gives you a little bit more volume, but it also gives you a bigger pump that's gonna be pushing.
Yeah, no, they looked at the bigger sizes and it actually, it's worse if we step up the size in the pipe. The 2-inch was the most efficient, and for the expected volume that we're gonna see through here. You don't want the pump starting up and stopping quickly, you want them to run for a little bit, so the 2-inch was the ideal design.
And if you could get that to us, we could get it to Tetra Tech for review, and it's just the board making that decision. I think, say, the faster you guys act, the faster we'll act, and we can keep this project going.
What specifically do you want Tetra Tech to review?
I wanted to review this, I could do it with Kevin through the board, the design. I don't want this to come back on the town of Saugus. And as we see in some of the conditions that are up there, not specifically Kane's, but other places on Route 1 that have had these issues. We just want it to work properly, so. Notice, have any questions?
Nope.
Nope. I had one more question.
Yep.
Approximate, at the manhole that it's being tied into, approximately how far below grade would the 2-inch pipe coming in be?
In the existing, where we're tying in?
Yeah, like the detail on C905, where it shows the
Yeah.
pipe coming in, then 90 down.
So essentially, we're matching crowns of the existing pipes that are in there now. So you'll have the 8 inches coming through, and then ours will be off to the side, and all the crowns of the pipes will match up. So the inverts will be different, but everything up top will be the same.
I'm just thinking, like, if there's grease, and what John said about, what the chairman said, of when the pump stops and that flow is in there, I'm thinking how deep it is, and if it's cold, if that's gonna make the grease set even quicker. You know, I'm not too familiar with like how grease builds up and how the maintenance goes, but the concern from my end and like the town's end is if there's ever a sanitary backup or overflow, you know, that's something we have to report. And you know, by acknowledging there's maintenance, we know it's not if, it's when. And right, we just want to give ourselves give everybody the best shot at not having this thing be too much of a problem. You know, so I don't know, with that manhole being shallow, if it's not below the frost line and it has grease as opposed to regular sewage or regular wastewater. Just something to
If it's
consider.
not below the frost line, and they close at 12 o'clock at night, and that water sits in that flat line, you have a much greater tendency of having the grease solidify a lot faster.
Yeah, no, understood. We do keep it as underneath the frost line for most of the entire run. It's just at the end tying in. That's where we have to tie in. But understood at the manhole. I mean, manholes in general. I mean, they're open up top besides the cover, so obviously just more susceptible.
Any other questions from the board members?
I do not.
Kevin, you're satisfied? We've given enough input and information back to the Bowler people to come up with a little bit more information?
Yeah, so just to
Design criteria from the designer?
Yeah, just sort of clarify, just make sure I have clear direction here. I'm gonna go back to the pump station designer, and I can, if I haven't already, I can certainly resend the whole package of why everything was selected, pump curves, that sort of thing. We have the O&M already. I can specifically ask them about this corner and what they think would be most appropriate, whether that's a clean out manhole, or maybe just changing the fittings so any equipment that does have to get around there is more appropriate for that.
Even if the line doesn't break at that point, there's still some way to get in and access the line so that it can be cleaned should there be a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna be on you guys, but it's just.
Yep, no, you're thinking ahead.
Thinking ahead.
Yep. Okay, and then you mentioned you want Tetra Tech to take a look at the design of the pump station. Anything in particular, just in whole of it?
Whatever they come up with for design, whatever head pumps with the size of the pump that's going to be used.
And then in terms of a modification, I think we're also looking input of what the board would think. If this is just a minor or something that we move forward, it's more a means and methods.
My personal, and this would put to a vote, but I don't think it's minor. But that's just me. So, but it's not a public hearing. So this is just an informal discussion, so a vote would have to be taken by the board. So if you present it to us the next time, we might be able to vote it as a minor, and just we have all the information. I can't tell you what's going to happen because we don't have the information.
Okay.
But we don't have any input from our geotech or our site engineers. So, not our intention to slow this project down by no means. It's just we want to be on the safe side rather than the sorry side.
Okay.
And I would, Matt, if you could include, and it may be in that O&M plan, the equipment that would be used to clean it, and just to double check that could fit in a 2-inch pipe and it could get around the bend. It could be.
Pump? Yeah.
The depth is not very deep.
No.
The size of the pump and the head pressure that it's going to need to push it along the flat will be determined by the maker of the pump, the designer of the system, which we don't have yet.
Sorry for all the pump selection. Everything is on that last page. What they selected on there, but. But I can certainly get what type of equipment they anticipate to use and confirming it makes sense with everything. And note that in the O&M.
And if they have in the O&M, because with the high level alarms, if that's transmitted in any way, and how that notification would prompt any action or shut down. Maybe that's in the plan, but
yeah, it would go to an internal control panel in the building, and I believe they have auto dialers too, in case it's off hours or anything of that nature. But I can make sure it's all detailed.
It sets up an alarm bell off on the panel, and it just rings, but you can't bypass that. You just try to keep getting through the night.
Hopefully that's not the action plan.
Motion
Do you have anything else?
to continue the discussion.
We can have a motion to continue the discussion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Any questions? No.
Just get it right the first time.
No, just,
I
the
mean,
more input, the faster they go. I mean, I keep saying
No, I
that.
know, but, I mean,
Yeah.
I know in the renovations they're doing around town, like up here at the corner of Fellsman and Main Street, you know what the clean outs they're doing for the businesses? Up there, like, if I can go to, finalized place up there, refurbished, I know, they got about 3 manholes now. And the other place, Angelo's, and they did that, Jimmy, what's his name there, he like the contractor.
Really?
Yeah, you know, they get 3 of these big manholes. I mean, you know what?
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Just a point, because of your knowledge. Can they make that pipe one piece, 300 feet? Can they, you know, just
Well, it's not
like they do water line, you know, like a coil?
It's not necessarily done. I don't know if it comes in 100-foot rolls or
Okay.
Where do you live?
what they're gonna use, you know.
I live right behind there. 829.
We could just run it
He's
down,
on something.
and you'd be fine down Forest Street.
Right, yeah. All right, I'll see you guys.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good holiday.
Yeah, you too. Merry Christmas.
I'd like to make the narrative motion to adjourn.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Meeting is adjourned.
That's the Jeannie Meredith motion.